Hello and welcome back to the Verbal Money Podcast. This podcast isn't afraid to deal with the tough questions like, will we ever talk about Power Slap ever again? I feel like we might not be done with it just yet, but at least for a while. But we've signed off on it for now. So we can actually talk about real fights instead of, the complete opposite. UFC 284 is obviously where we're going to start. Huge card in Perth. Main event, Islam Makhachev defending his lightweight title against Alex Volkanovski. There has been some recent news that's come out today, but we're going to touch on that after the fights themselves, because who knows what's going to happen with that. We don't want to let it impact what actually happened on Saturday night. Where to start? I'm going to start by saying I think that the main event was a better fight than I thought it would be. I was really, really entertained by it. I think a lot of people were surprised by how exciting the actual fight was. And the big talking point coming out of it with Islam winning has been that despite that, a lot of people still have Volk as the number one pound for pound fighter. I think for good reason. There is a talking point that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about, but I don't think we need to. Did anyone score the fight for Volkanovski? Because I think
not live initially, but I will be honest, I missed the knockdown or the supposed knockdown in the second round, the second, third, and fifth rounds. But honestly, I think it comes down to that. If Volkanovski comes into that round and he wins that round and he wins 3 out of 5 rounds, so he wins the fight.
Yeah, I think that a lot of podcasts recapping the event are going to be talking about whether the whole controversy around people saying it was a robbery. But I feel like if we did that, we would be doing it like all the time. And I don't think any of us felt like it was a robbery. It was very close, 3 rounds to 2.
It's definitely not a robbery.
Yeah, no. I think it's massively unfair to Makhachev to label it as a robbery. And anyone that's labeling it as a robbery either just doesn't like Makhachev or really likes Volkanovski. Got any like neutral fan could see that it was a close fight, but it definitely wasn't a robbery.
Yeah,
I think you can argue 3-2 either way. I don't think 4-2 for Islam is a particularly good card, if I'm honest.
No. I agree.
When we heard 4-2, though, I was pretty convinced that it was Islam. 4-1, sorry, 4-1. When we heard 4-1, I was pretty convinced it was Islam. But I've seen a video of Hooker and Adesanya in the crowd. Like, they both were extremely convinced that Volkanovski had won the fight. But I don't know. It was a close fight. And like Steve said, I think you can argue 3-2 either way. But I would probably say there was definitely more of a case to say Islam. Off first viewing, like Jake said, I'd probably have to watch it again to kind of really dig deep into it. But
yeah, to be honest, a lot of the the impression I got that people were saying Volk had won came because Izzy kept retweeting posts of people saying that Volk should have won. So I went through my Twitter feed and was like, oh, they're really split on this, which I didn't expect. And then realized it was all Izzy. I was like, oh, well, I can't take this into account. I think there's a weird thing where when people do really well against high-level grapplers, they think that them not dominating the fight with their grappling means the other person should have won. But we've had this conversation in our group chat over the last few days. You have to give Islam as much credit for striking with Volk as well as he did, as you do for Volk grappling with Islam. I thought that fight would come down to Islam being too good in the grappling exchanges for Volkanovski, but obviously was incredibly surprised by how well he dealt with it. Jamie, I know that during the fight you were getting annoyed at how much he was like playing up to the crowd and stuff like that.
I don't know if I'd say I was annoyed. I was just a bit like, I'd wanted him to focus at what was happening rather than trying to like. There was times where Islam was pretty much on his back and he was too busy trying to talk to the crowd or talk to the corners to say like, oh no, I'm not in a compromised position. Bro, you've literally got Islam Makhachev on your back. You are in a compromised position. No matter how comfortable you are, you're in a compromised position. And I think that if he was a bit more focused on just being in the fight instead of in the moment itself, he might have had a bit more success in in the striking, because I think his striking did kind of take a bit of a hit because of the threat of Islam's takedowns, which is fair enough, obviously, but his striking didn't look as polished as it usually does.
I agree. I think maybe we should talk about it now, the Dan Hooker situation, before we move on for the rest of the card. So if you haven't seen it, Dan Hooker's tweeted out. He tweeted a bunch of stuff in a row saying about someone being a cheater using an IV when they got to Australia, and then eventually revealed that he was on about Islam Makhachev, who he's making accusations about, saying that he used an IV once he landed in Australia and stuff, which is really hard to comment anything on because there's no evidence as of yet. We don't know what's going to happen or if anything is going to happen, in fact. But obviously it would be huge. Steve, what was your reaction to those tweets? Because for a while, everyone was trying to work out who he was on about.
Yeah, I think I immediately assumed it was Islam just because, like, he's the most high profile guy and he beat Hooker's guy, you know? Logically, it would be him. I think that's one side of the story. That's fine. But I mean, Islam seems to have responded, as we were talking about off air. He posted something saying, like, I forget the exact words he used. Something about Australia not liking him. We'll see. Obviously, there could just be an emotional Dan Hooker, you know? His guy lost and we'll see. But maybe there's more to it than that. And it's still very early. We don't really know the facts. We just know what Dan Hooker said. So I think it's a bit early to really go into what has happened there. Obviously, the fact is that Dan Hooker has claimed that Islam has used an IV to rehydrate, which is banned. Yeah, it's an interesting one. There have been cases of it happening before, but not for a while.
I think Paulo Costa in 2019, wasn't it?
He did,
the
yeah.
Last time it happened.
And what was the punishment for him? Was there anything?
I can't remember.
I'll have a check.
I'm not sure if there was, but to be fair,
who was it?
Costa takes a little bit of time between fights, doesn't he? So if there was, it would probably just kind of
he got a 6 month suspension.
Yeah, exactly.
Though, so it had already passed by the time he was done. He just didn't fight during that 6 months.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think with it being Hooker that's kind of come out with this rumor, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt at the moment because of, like what Steve said, Volkanovski's his guy. He's just lost a close decision. Hooker's not going to be the happiest of teammates, is he, at the moment? So I think take it with a pinch of salt until investigations have kind of got underway and concluded, and then we can kind of see the clearer picture. But obviously, at the moment, it doesn't look. It's hard to say that it looks credible because of the fact that it's came from Dan Hooker after the fight, after his mates just lost the decision. It's just a bit like, I don't know.
And
we don't.
Go on.
I was just going to say that we don't know who his source is either. Coming from this, you know, he's just talking as if it's common knowledge now, and no one knows the source. He says that there was a private nurse involved who was hired to give Islam an IV, but you know, that's just what Dan Hooker has said. And you know, Dan Hooker is probably one of the more believable, real people in the sport. But even still, like you guys were saying, you know, his guy just lost at the weekend. He could just be on a fucking mad one. Do you know what I mean? He could, you know, he could be just out on the beer and fucking drunk tweeting for all we know. So
yeah, and Dan Hooker,
it's hard to say as of now.
Dan Hooker's obviously seen that, like, so many people on Twitter are like big Volk fans behind Volk, like talking about how well Volk did. A lot of people on Twitter were saying he won as well. So Hooker's obviously seen that and realizes that, or if he like can say some things about Islam, the fans are going to pick that up really quick. So I think that's part of what he's done as well.
Yeah, I could see that. Even though he lost. Obviously, we already said about how a lot of people still think he should be pound for pound number one. I don't think Volk lost anything. If not, he gained anything in that fight. And
it's the old wrestling thing. Islam went over, Volk got over.
Mm-hmm. And the walkout in Perth was absolutely incredible. One of the best moments, certainly in Volk's UFC career. That was fantastic. The co-main event for the first round, unlike the main event, played out kind of exactly how I thought the whole fight would go, but inside one round. Second round a little bit different, but I think the common consensus for a lot of people was that if Yair Rodriguez stayed smart and switched on, then he would outstrike Josh Emmett all day long until he got too aggressive, tried to fight with him a bit too much, and then he would be in danger. And that is literally what we saw in the first round, which I couldn't believe it was happening like so accurately as people had predicted. And then the second round, obviously that changed.
I think I tweeted this and put it in the group chat that that's what was going to happen. And we saw it then.
Were you surprised in the second round with how that? Because after seeing the first round, I was like, "This is what I expected." I think there's only so long Yair Rodriguez can play this game before he gets dropped and hurt a lot worse than he did the first time around. Because Josh Emmett's power doesn't seem to decrease over time. He still has power in the later rounds. So I was very surprised by the way that the second round went. I thought that this was going to be a bit of an uphill battle for Yair if he constantly kept getting caught like he did in the first.
Was it the first round that Yair landed a really heavy body kick? Or was that round two?
Yeah.
So I think it was round one.
I think it was the first.
Yeah, and that really turned the momentum of the fight in round two, because you could tell that first kick that he landed really hurt Emmett. And as soon as it landed, he kind of took a lot of steps back because of how much it hurt. And that's the thing with Yair. He's so like, his variants of kicks is just so like terrifying. The fact that he throws them like jabs. I think I'm going to come clean and say that I thought that Josh Emmett would probably be the one to give Volk the biggest problems he's had so far, just because of the fact that he's so powerful. And it's something that he hasn't really faced so far. After seeing Yair on Saturday night, I've completely changed my opinion, which I know that's fickle, but the fact that Yair is so like dangerous with his kicks, that's interesting. And obviously we knew he was anyway, but like I didn't really. Emmett and Volk are quite similar in stature and like the way they physically impose themselves. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I was completely with you. I thought Josh Emmett would be the toughest test, but I think that's the best Yair has looked in quite some time. I was surprised by how early he was able to hurt Josh Emmett, because we've seen Josh Emmett go through some wars. So I didn't think he was going to be able to get him out of there. And obviously ended up pulling off the triangle choke submission. We already talked about the kind of fanfare that Volkanovski got in Perth, but the next person you have to talk about is Jack Della Maddalena, who is a star.
Such a good walkout.
So good. And then just goes in there and puts on a pretty perfect performance against Randy Brown. I thought this fight was going to be tough for him. There was a little bit early on where I thought, okay, Randy Brown's using his range quite well. He's getting out the way. But Jack Della Maddalena, man, he just lined it up perfectly and got the finish in the first round. What do you guys think should be next for Jack Della Maddalena? And how surprised were you in how he dealt with someone like Randy Brown? Because I think Randy Brown is so underrated, but that just speaks to how good the division is, I suppose.
Yeah. I'd like to see him fight Luque. I'd like to see him fight Luque next.
100% there, 100%. I was that's who I chose for Matchmaker Monday today. I was looking at the rankings and trying to find a good opponent, and just no one other than Luque stands out for me. He's a little bit high ranked at the minute. He's at number 9, but he's also kind of on a little bit of a downward decline. That sucks to say, but his last 2 performances haven't been fantastic. So why not? Why not do it in a 5-round fight night main event? don't do it in the Apex. Go get a crowd, find a crowd that fucking loves Aussies, and just let them do their thing. Because either Jack gets put in his place and Luke, picks up some momentum off of him, or Luke gets fucked by Madalena. And either way, that's a fun fight. So I'm all there for that fight.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of as well. The other option to me, we got the news the other day that Sean Brady has pulled out against Mikael Pereira. If Jack Della Maddalena wanted to cancel his plans in Bali, I think Jack Della Maddalena filling in. He took no damage. Jack Della Maddalena filling in for Sean Brady and taking on Mikael Pereira, I think is a good shout as well.
John Gooden posted a video this morning. Jack is already back in the gym this morning, apparently. So whether he's put a stop to that holiday, I don't know. But yeah, John Gooden apparently was at the gym that he trains at this morning, and he was there hitting the pads. So that's pretty interesting. I
don't often agree with the lads from fucking Fight Disciples, but I will agree with Adam Catterall on one thing. Sign the guy who did that to Jack Della Maddalena's nose, because how fucking good is that guy? You sign the guy who plastered his nose on his face like that, and there's your welterweight champion.
I'm having a look at his record here. He got finished by Alden Bates in his first fight. Let's have a look at this guy.
I think people are going to start getting it twisted as well, that Randy Brown, they're going to start saying, like, Randy Brown's not all that, and they're going to kind of like flip the narrative.
Yeah, he is.
But exactly, but that's what I mean. Don't get it twisted. Randy Brown is still
really freaking good.
Yeah.
Randy Brown's really good.
That's just a testament to how good Jack Della Maddalena is because of how easily he got through him. But now that he's got through him,
I was very impressed.
Probably
I was very impressed. I was very impressed with him because I thought this was a dangerous fight. I could smell an upset with fucking Randy Brown because he's a big guy. He's such a big guy and super talented. I was really impressed when he fought Chaos Williams. His boxing was just on point. And then again against Trinaldo, I think it was. So for him to go in, not take a punch off Randy Brown, and then flatten him like he did, and then submit him, just he is the future of the division, I do feel. Because he's that only, division, like 26 now?
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, 26, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first round finishes is pretty ridiculous to do. So he has to be given a fight night headliner next time out. I just hope that it's in Australia because it feels like the perfect time to capitalize on that.
Yeah, he needs to go back to Perth.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Paddy the Baddie, but actually good.
That division's scary, by the way. There are a lot of prospects in that division.
Yeah.
Imagine him against Shafkat at some point. I don't.
Oh, stop.
That's the title fight in 2 years' time.
Yeah. Very easily. Wow.
Do you know, I can't like take people seriously normally when they say stuff like that. Like, do you remember when people genuinely said that Adrian
Yanez?
I was say Yanez versus who?
Who could it be? Let's see if I can guess it before Jake comes back.
Yeah, Adrian Yanez. We're going to fight for the belt.
Oh. Who?
Oh, you only made one pick.
Who? Adrian Yanez and who?
Randy Costa.
Oh.
The suspense, man. Oh. Randy Costa.
Sorry, fellas. Yeah, no, he was the punchline of that joke. Sorry.
we
you can't just say, Adrian Yanez is going to fight for a belt. There's the joke. It's like, no, that might happen. You never know. It's no Randy Costa. Shit.
Yeah, you broke. Like,
all we heard was Yanez, and then it froze.
Oh, fuck.
Who's he on about?
Oh, fuck.
We weren't like.
Well, technically, you froze after Adrian first.
Yeah. Also, I didn't realize it was going to be a joke. I thought you were going to say two people that were rumored. Like,
I thought so as well. That's why when he said that Randy Costa, I was like, did they say that?
He's not even in the UFC anymore, is he?
No, he's not. He's cut.
No, he got cut like earlier.
Yeah.
Well, late last year.
No, but like I saw people when Yanez and Costa fought the first time, and it was a good fight. People on Twitter, like genuinely, I saw more than 10 people say that those two would rematch for the title someday. And now look at where we are. Randy Costa isn't even in the fucking UFC.
That's because they were popular on Twitter.
I know, but I just can't take that phrase seriously. So it's just when you said when Shavkat and Jack are going to fight
Jack
for the title.
Madeleine is a bit different to Randy Costa. And,
slightly different than the battle of Dr. Pepper versus Reese's.
Not soon. I do like Yanez. I do think he could be fighting for a title. So not soon, but in the future.
At some point.
I don't think he beat Davy Grant. I haven't seen that fight in a while, but I don't think he beat Davy Grant.
I haven't seen that fight in a while.
There's a fight you don't fucking remember.
True.
I thought you were going to be like, people said Justin Taffer and Parker Porter was going to be for the title. Which is the perfect segue to the next fight.
Don't diss Parker Porter. He is a fucking legend.
You say a perfect segue into the next two fights. I'm not going to lie to you. I was going to go with the segue. Those other two fights on the main card happened. Like,
who cares about Parker?
If you guys
Parker Porker,
if you guys really want to talk about him, we can. But
Porker?
Porker. Parker Porker.
Dude looked like the record for most significant strikes in a heavyweight fight, and
you can't say don't disrespect the man and then call him Porker. That is not okay.
I feel like Jake can't get through one episode without completely like.
It's gimmick. Look at him. It's right for a start. Look at him. But that's it's not cool to pick on people's bodies, right? Especially not fighters. He's a heavyweight fighting in the UFC. What am I? I'm a 16-year-old sitting in his room talking about professional fighters. I have nothing to say, right?
You're so young. Oh my god.
But
his
name.
That is crazy.
Did you just not know that?
I do.
Well,
like
I kind of did, but just kind of brushed past it and then never really hear it out loud, kind of.
I am 8 years older than you.
Anyway, Parker Porter, he's shite. Right? That's all I've got. Like, how can you be a heavyweight and have that little power?
No, that's the thing. I heard on another podcast. He had like the record for most significant strikes in a fight. Like it was like 150 and didn't get a knockout. He's a heavyweight.
Shocking. It's like I've not watched him fight often. Actually, I think I've only ever watched him fight when he loses. I'm pretty sure. Like I've gone back and I've seen his highlights of the fights he's won, but I've only ever watched the fights he's lost.
I really want to find nothing. Go on, sorry.
He's just nothing spectacular, is he? Like Parker Porter. Like, that's a UFC fighter.
There's a betting stat that was brought up on the MMA Hour on Monday or Wednesday. If you would have bet $100 on Parker Porter to win by decision in all of his UFC fights, you'd be £1,200 up, which is pretty mental. But
I really want to find the video of him fighting John Jones.
That was at light heavyweight. He tried to make light heavyweight for that fight. He was a heavyweight before, going around at like 240, 250. And he was like, oh, fuck this, I'm going to light heavyweight. Tried to drop the weight, didn't make it, and fought John Jones in his first fight. If that's not the universe telling you that light heavyweight is not your division, fella, I don't know what fucking is.
He fought Gabriel Gonzaga in 2011. What?
I know, it's so odd. It's so fucking odd. He's been fighting for so long, but he only has like 20 fights.
Hawker's been through the ringer, man.
I did like what you guys were saying in the group chat the other day when you were like, who names their kid Parker Porter? And one of you was like, I think the Porter was automatic.
Yeah, it was Jamie and I. It was Jamie.
It was just the Porter part as well. Oh, fuck.
Look, I think you're a bit wrong there. I think they could have chosen any last name for their child, especially knowing that his name was going to be Parker, or at least work around the Porter. Work around
Give him
the
like
Porter.
a double barrel first name, like I don't know. I'm not even gonna suggest a double
Slap
barrel
Jesus.
first name.
Slap Jesus.
Oh,
Slap Jesus Porter.
All right, let's not go on to that.
We've already done this. No.
We have. The problem is I'm like, okay, let's talk about something else. The majority draw between Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Mofield.
That was that fight was odd. That was just.
It was a fun fight to watch, but it was.
Oh, it was awful. That fight stank, but like not in terms of entertainment value. Like it was a good fight to watch, but
I don't know how many
for two UFC athletes. For two actual like UFC fighters, that was a shocking amount of skill on display. Now, I watched the fight with my eyes half open, so I don't know. Maybe it was slightly better than what I remember, but I also, what's the only other fight I can really remember off that card? Bukowskis is back. Always happy to see that. He got a pretty good win. Pretty uneventful fight, but go on, Modestus, lad. Everyone's fucking buzzing for you. I didn't see the Coolabou fight. I fell asleep after
awesome.
Jack Jenkins.
That was you're going from a fight with no technique at whatsoever in Crute versus Menafield to a fight between two like stand-up fighters that was extremely fun between
flying kick to the balls.
Melzer. Yeah,
I saw that. Oh boy, he went to the John
bad.
Dotson school of getting kicked in the nuts.
He was standing on his stool in between the round as well, trying to stamp his balls back into play.
Take the extra time. You had 5 minutes, bro. Yeah. You could have taken another 3 minutes.
It was bad.
But then he went and finished him in the next round, so what do I know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that finish was so slick. The way he took it back.
Yeah.
Jack Jenkins as well. Did any of you see that fight?
Oh, watch that fight, yeah.
Jenkins
arrived back from a baby shower during that fight.
Yeah, Jack Jenkins. He's deadly. He's a little fucking savage. Yeah, like him. He's got room to grow, but I'm very impressed. His leg kicks are
vicious leg
fucking
kicks.
lethal.
Yeah, vicious.
Yeah, they're lethal.
We skipped over Clayton Rodriguez. Can we talk about the flying butt attack?
On spinning ass shot.
Right.
It was pretty incredible.
When that fight came on, I was like, oh, fuck this. I'm knackered. I'm going to go wake up when Bukowskis fights, right? But I remember hearing the crowd pop as soon as I went to go turn away. So I looked back and the fight was over. So I was like, oh, okay, quick stoppage. Let me get a look at this. And I saw the replay and I had to watch it a few times because it looks like he spins around and hits him with his arse. Or at least that's what he does.
Exactly that, Jay. He does exactly that.
It was the rear view, the old Naomi move.
It's a first, but I'm always a fan of innovation in this sport. A modern day Benson Henderson, if I do say so myself.
It's hard to say that he was trying to do a spinning back kick as well, because I don't know whether he was. I think he was genuinely trying to.
He threw it so wide. He threw it so who throws it with that much hip? With that much fucking.
He was in such close proximity as well that he was never going to be able to extend his leg out for a spinning back kick. That I'm quite convinced at this point that he was trying to spin an ass in. But
it was baffling to watch. Now
that move has like 100% success rate in the UFC, so I want to see more people do it. Yeah, how do you do it? This is the new calf.
Where's Tyron Woodley when you need him?
Right.
You know what? We're not going to get into Tyron Woodley. I think the final talk. I think the final talking point that we should mention is Loma Lookboonmee, who I thought was going to be in for a really tough night against Elise Reed, who I think is still quite underrated. But she got the win with the rear naked choke submission in the second round. So that kind of the first couple fights were okay, and then from then on, I was like, okay, that's a feel good moment to kick the rest of this card on with some motivation to watch the rest of it. Although I did fall asleep for the majority of the card. But, you know, it happens. We didn't do an episode last week, so we got a couple of news-related things to chat about. Obviously, these things have been out there for quite a while, so we're not going to, go super in-depth on what it means and everything. The first of which being that Conor McGregor will return to fight Michael Chandler, and they are also going to coach The Ultimate Fighter first. I'm going to completely leave this one to you guys because I don't know why. It's not a good TV show, but I have watched every season of The Ultimate Fighter. I would have watched it regardless. So to me, I'm like, cool. I was going to watch it anyway. Some entertaining coaches. I think that's the right fight to make. I'm glad it wasn't Tony. So there you go. That's my feelings. Is there anyone who doesn't watch The Ultimate Fighter here? Like, generally, just not that interested.
I haven't done properly in a few years. I watched a few of the Ortega series, but I didn't watch the whole series. I haven't watched properly in a while.
I assume then that
I didn't watch 30.
Changes that.
Yeah. I'm watching this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be better if Will Brooks was on there, but
I forgot all about that. That should have been the intro.
I've just seen a really interesting scenario in one of the group chats I'm in. Imagine if Islam gets stripped after all of this, what's going on? Obviously, complete speculation. It's all like hypothetical. And
Jamie,
then Conor versus Chandler.
I'm going to stop you now. I'm going to stop you now. No, he said it now. He said it. He's fucking said it, and he's put it out into the universe to the forces that be, and we're going to have Conor McGregor fight Michael Chandler for a vacant world title.
It's so UFC, though. It's so UFC
in a stadium
that it could happen
in England.
I mean, it's all hypothetical, obviously, because this is
stadium in England as well, because that only makes sense.
Yeah, for an English fight, you've got to put him in a stadium in England.
I mean, Laura Sanko was onto something, maybe.
Well,
but like, yeah, someone literally 5 minutes away from Wembley Stadium, sign me up for that. Let's go.
Everyone's going to have to come to terms with the fact that is a very small possibility.
It's definitely a possibility.
The only thing that throws it off there is Chandler. It's not even McGregor that's the problem, and the fact he hasn't won a fight at lightweight since 2016. It's Chandler that's the issue because he's 2-3 in the UFC.
Yeah, but who else would they? That's the only fight towards the top that's booked. Dariush versus Oliveira is not even booked yet. But is it all gonna conclude before March the 18th? That's what I don't think this whole even if they do investigate it, I don't know whether it'll conclude that quickly. That's what I'm saying. And then other than that, you've got Dariush versus Oliveira that's getting talked about, but still not official.
That would be the one.
That would be the one, but it's if they actually make that official and when for. It's interesting.
If it happens. It could happen. I mean, it's not. I worry that we're putting this out as a possibility now that it might actually happen.
Blame James.
I do apologise.
Blame Laura Sanko. That's what comes back to her at some point.
Yeah. Gamebred FC.
Yeah, we got to talk about that as well.
That's where we're
stop. What is that card? I thought I was having a stroke reading it. Roy Jones Jr. versus Anthony Pettis. Now, let's just slow the fuck down now for a minute. Roy Jones Jr., former WBA heavyweight champion. I know that's not his main accomplishment, but he became a heavyweight champion in boxing. And you have Anthony Pettis, who was the former lightweight champion in the UFC.
I think you undersold Roy Jones Jr. a little bit there.
Yeah, I know. I had to highlight the weight. I had to highlight the weight discrepancy and the size discrepancy between the two. Roy Jones Jr., 4-division world champion, I want to say. My boxing knowledge is shocking.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. You know what? Fuck it, we're going with it. Really good boxer, Roy Jones Jr. fought Mike Tyson in 2020 on a Jake Paul card. That's Mike Tyson from Hot Boxing. Yeah, the Mike Tyson, the podcast host. He fought this guy, Roy Jones Jr. Apparently, he's meant to be good. And now he's going to fight Anthony Pettis because, of course, he is. Why wouldn't he?
My favorite thing about this card is I've got it up on Tapology, and obviously it has their boxing records listed next to their names instead of MMA. So you've got
I know where you go with this.
So you've got 0-0 Paul Daly versus 2-3 Anthony Taylor. You know, you got 1-0 Vitor Belfort. It's weird to see legends like this, and they've got O's next to their name. And then you've got 0-0 Anthony Pettis versus 66-9 Roy Jones Jr. He's the only person with more than 5 fights on this card.
So yeah, I mean, according to the Mirror fighting, McGregor has arrived at the Black Fortune for crunch negotiations.
What news?
This is the breaking news.
He's arrived at the Black Fortune for negotiations with Eddie Hearn over funding for Katie Taylor's homecoming fight. Which I know it's underwhelming now that I've said it, but that's interesting.
That's cool though that he's doing that. Katie Taylor deserves Croke Park.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm obviously the main person to talk about this on this podcast. About Irish politics regarding stadiums, but now go for it, Jake.
She does deserve it, and everyone wants to see it. We know that she's kind of coming towards the tail end of her career here. This is not coming from like a boxing point of view. This is coming from an Irish point of view. So I don't know. Katie Taylor could be gearing up for 10 more fights, but in Ireland, it's been like, oh, this will be the last one now. It's been like that for about 5 or 7 fights now. But we really feel like this is the last one. So fuck it, do it in Croke Park. It's like the 2nd or 3rd biggest stadium in Europe. And the thing is that they're really strict about what they allow in there. Like they don't allow soccer in there at all. Because it's a foreign sport in Ireland, apparently. So they're very stringent about what they let in, and they're very fucking costly, but not as costly as Eddie Hearn would lead you to believe. But even still, he's not going to pay for it. So fuck it, let McGregor do it. I would go, aside from but it's boxing, and who wants to watch boxing? Boxing is shit.
I love how we spent the last 3 minutes talking about this huge boxing event just for Jake to say who wants to watch it. You know. We
were also talking about Sunday before that.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned that I did get a ticket for the Anthony Joshua fight, so I'm going to be going to that while I'm here in London. So.
You know what? His press conference didn't inspire a lot of confidence, did it? It's like, Anthony, what's your reason for taking this fight? Fucking love money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Money. I want to be fucking minted. That's why I'm fighting.
Did they do a press conference?
You just see Eddie Hearn.
There was one a couple of days ago.
Yeah, Eddie Hearn's just like, Anthony, what's your reason for taking this fight? He's so ready for this, aren't you? And he goes,
money.
He goes, money. Fuck, love money. Love making money. So
I'm not gonna lie. I heard you say Anthony and boxing, and I thought you were on about Pettis Jones again.
Can we touch on? I want to touch on the Paul Daly Anthony Taylor fight real quick.
Okay, sure.
That's so bizarre.
Paul Daly's gonna do bad things to that man.
The problem is I have thought that so many times going into things like this, and then been like, these fighters are not the same way that I remember them. But I'm like, Paul, come on, it's Paul Daly.
He retired
Paul
6 months
Daly.
ago. He's fine.
That's what I mean. But
Kyle, we did a Spaces on his retirement fight. That's how recent it was. Like, this was not a long time ago. We did a Twitter live companion on it. Like he's been on holiday. He wasn't even retired. And now he's fighting Pretty Boy Taylor, who he couldn't beat Tommy Fury in a boxing match, which meh. But then he couldn't beat, who the fuck did he fight?
Idris
Virgo. That's it. Yeah, he couldn't beat him. Now I know he's meant to be a good boxer as well, but I'm here trying to slag off Anthony Taylor, so I need to act like everyone he's fought is shit.
Let's have a look. I'm gonna pull him up. He lost to Jay Cuccinello, the old Ultimate Fighter guy. He lost to
fought in Bellator.
Yeah,
I remember him.
He lost to Chris Avila in a boxing match.
You know what? Real ones remember him from when he fought fucking Artem Lobov and got the leg kicked off him.
Yeah,
that's where real ones.
It was Diaz's guy versus Connor's guy.
Yeah,
and then that aged well.
Yeah.
I've inexplicably met both Paul Taylor and Anthony Taylor. Oh, Paul Taylor, not Paul Taylor. Not
Paul Taylor.
Not the like old English fighter. I met him too, actually.
Oh, there you go. You met all three possible combinations of person right there.
Do we know if there's an Anthony Daly around?
I'm sure there is.
Is
there anything else you want to talk about from that mental?
Oh yeah, Aldo.
He won the other day, didn't he?
Weekend, yeah. Changed the walkout song, which I wasn't a fan of.
Look, I'm a big Aldo guy, but I'm just gonna say, as we've seen in Russian MMA, it's easy to win fights when you're friends with a dictator or a former dictator.
I mean,
I don't think Bolsonaro is involved with the event, though.
Look, do you have to be? Does Kadyrov have to be involved with events to fucking pull strings?
No, but he is.
Well, yeah, that just makes it easier for him, doesn't it? Did you see his sons fight in MMA? Did that get posted into the group?
I think
so.
Yeah, his son had a fight in MMA, and he was like in half guard, right? In posture down, like kind of like hugging half guard, and he was like hitting the guy like this, and the ref jumps in and waves it off.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, brutal ground and pound here for Kadyrov. Oh, it's so and I don't even know if it was like a call from the top or the referee just wanted to be in Kadyrov's good graces and was like, oh fuck, I'll stop the fight here.
Maybe. So I was at the Morning Combat live show in London the other day, and when they did the Q&A, one of the questions they asked was like, if you could like change the life choices of a fighter, like who would you choose? And they mentioned John Jones, obviously, but Luke Thomas literally just said like, if you're hanging out with Kadyrov's son, don't. Yeah, right.
It's just not a great look for. It's just not a great look for fighters, is it?
Nah, not really.
But people give guys like Zidane so much shit for pointing it out, you know, and like there's no harm in pointing it out and, you know, letting people know that it's like, oh, see who this fucker's hanging around with, you know. But people accuse him and, you know, people at the likes of Bloody Elbow who talk about fighter pay.
Rest in peace, Bloody Elbow.
As like, oh yeah, that was sad to see. That was sad to see, because I was on the shit on Bloody Elbow wagon for a while, and I was like, why are you guys spreading so much negativity? But then I came to the age of reason, and I realized that they're just they're doing actual journalism and talking about the shit parts of the sport.
Fair enough. I thought that was. I don't know how we got onto Bloody Elbow. Right, we need to talk about this UFC card coming up. This is a strange.
Do we have to?
Do we? Can we just talk about
the main event? Just the main event, please.
All right. Is there anything that you guys want to touch on that isn't the main event? Probably Jim Miller.
Let me have a look at the card.
Even then, Jim Miller, Alexander Hernandez doesn't scream. Super necessary.
I hope Hernandez gets fucking mollywopped by old man Jim Miller. And then I want to see Jim Miller.
You have a hate for fighters?
It's Alex Hernandez, though. That's fine.
To be fair, a lot of people hate Alex Hernandez. Like,
he's such a smug little prick. I'd love to take a Stanley knife to his face.
Whoa.
That little fucking bastard. That
fucking.
Sorry, that's a bit much. That's a bit much.
But I said that we should probably touch on it. That's not what I had in mind. I think we're just gonna move away from the Jim Miller one before
Jake gets
makes another serious threat on a fighter's life. We were supposed to have Marlon Vera and Corey Sandhagen on this card, but that has been moved so that it's in front of a crowd.
They got moved in front of the crowd, that's right.
Also, we were supposed to have Tyler Santos in the main event against Aaron Blanchfield. And obviously that isn't happening now. We have Jessica Andrade stepping in on a week's notice, which fair play to her. The one thing that this fight card does have is potential big implications for our championship predictions. From my perspective, it is not looking good because I already had the tough task of trying to convince myself that Tyler Santos would beat Erin Blanchfield, and now she is not in the fight. So that is not ideal.
You can't lose.
It's gonna be pretty fucking hard to beat her if she ain't fighting her.
Very true. However, for Steve,
advantage.
Yeah,
this could be big for Steve though this weekend.
Yeah.
Could be is a big could be. Is the one concern.
Erin Blanchfield was going to beat Tyler Santos, you could maybe give her a title shot, but they might have gone for one more. If she beats Jessica Andrade, she's getting a title shot. No doubt about that. Yeah. The only thing is, if she beats Jessica Andrade, she's likely gonna take quite a lot of punches to the face in doing so. So she might not come back this year.
Just ask Laura Murphy.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! Don't remind me of that.
I'm less confident in my pick now that she's fighting Jessica Andrade. To be honest,
that's a big step up for Blanchfield. That is
right.
From Molly McCann to Jessica Andrade, you don't say.
Huge. It's a big step up
even from Talia Santos. I mean, from Santos to Andrade.
Yeah,
that's a big step up.
It is. It's a really dangerous fight for her. It's a better fight as well. Every fight is better with Jessica Andrade in it. So I reckon we put Jessica Andrade in every fight from now on. Do you know?
I'm
running against John Jones.
Andrade for taking it, but also massive props to Blanchfield for accepting that as her light replacement. That's impressive.
She's the kind of fighter who will though. Like she could not give a single fuck who she's fighting.
Nah, but she could have easily not, and then would have ended up with Zach Powell and Jordan Wright in the main event.
Oh,
that's such an apex main event.
They'd have bumped up Jim Miller, surely.
Oh, they'd have to. Or fuck it. Is OSP still on this card?
OSP's on the prelims.
The problem with the Jim Miller one is Hernandez is a late replacement as well.
Yeah.
So they would have had to get Hernandez to go to 5 rounds.
It was supposed to be Mobley, yeah.
So you're not wrong in thinking that we could have had a co-main event featuring Josh Parisian. Who would have seen that coming?
I'm sure that's happened before.
Oh.
I feel like that's happened before.
I really hope not. But you might be right.
I think he might have fought Arlovsky, I want to say. Someone like that. Someone that warrants a co-main event.
He actually hasn't. His biggest name opponent in the UFC is Parker Porter.
Oh no, we're not getting into
not
this.
Back onto Porker, please.
We've gone back to the Porker.
That was the third fight from the top on a fight night.
Who was on that card?
Anthony Smith and Devin Clark was the main event.
Oh, that makes a hell of a lot of sense there.
Miguel Baeza.
Okay. No, to be fair, that was a late notice. That was a late notice main event. I remember that.
In this card.
It was meant to be Lewis and Blades.
Yes. Blades had COVID.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember the days of fights getting cancelled because the fighter had COVID on the day of the fight? Those were you could lose a whole card to COVID because one fucker wouldn't wear a mask or something. Do you know what I mean? And when it used to be in Vegas, you would lose fights for the next 3 weeks because everyone was in Vegas.
Yeah.
Are we done with this card? Because I don't think there's a whole lot. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the fights we would have been talking about are the ones that have been cancelled. So
Jordan Wright and Zach.
Unless anyone wants to shit on OSP, then I'm good to move on.
I was talking about Jordan Wright and Zach Palga because that's a co-main event. Jordan Wright is a fun fighter, but not a good fighter. He seems to get finished a lot, so he's really fun. He's fighting for his job in this one. He's lost his last 3 all in the first or second round against.
Has he really?
Yeah. I
didn't realize it was that desperate. I thought he lost maybe 1 or 2.
He beat Villanueva, which is anyone can do that. No offense, Villanueva. I'm turning to Jake here. Then he lost to Buckley. Then he beat Jamie Pickett, and then he lost to Bruno Silva, Marc-Andre Barrio, and Dusko Todorovic. So yeah, he's fighting for his job in this one for sure.
Also to touch on Zach Pauga, I was quite impressed by him on The Ultimate Fighter. Actually,
yeah.
I think Muhammad Usman was always the favorite to win the heavyweight bracket. But I was quite impressed. I did think he would probably go down to light heavyweight because he had gone up for the series. So that's interesting, I suppose.
He fought Marcus Perez, a light heavyweight in Cage Warriors.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. It definitely seemed like it would fit him more, but he did look good at heavyweight. So maybe he's just feels more at home now. I don't know.
Just doesn't want to cut. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Did you want to talk about OSP, Jake?
No, don't let him talk about OSP. We will never leave.
I do have dinner waiting for me. The last thing I need is Jake absolutely ripping into OSP for the next half an hour.
No, I'm going to leave OSP alone. He seems like a nice chap. I do have just one question because someone's name got brought up and I remember that they're fighting on a pay-per-view soon, right? I will give any of you a $5 if you name me a win, like an opponent that Jamie Pickett has beaten in the UFC, because I cannot think of one.
No, I can't do that off the top of my head.
No chance. I'm on Tapology there. Let me check just to because I'm curious now.
Yeah.
Jamie the
Knight. I understand.
Yeah, I didn't know that was his nickname.
Yeah, I understand that he's fighting Bo Nickel, but people are actually going to have to pay money, and the first fight they're going to tune in to see is a Jamie Pickett fight. You can't do that. That borders on fucking extortion.
Okay, so he won on the Contender Series against someone whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce. He lost to Puna on the Contender Series before that. He lost to Tafa, and it doesn't matter who he lost to. We want to know who he beat. He beat Laureano Staropoli and Joseph Holmes.
Oh, I remember Joseph Holmes.
Ugly man, yeah.
Yeah.
That's his nickname. I'm not just like...
You haven't gone full Jake on us.
Yeah. But yeah, that's... Yeah.